What's up, everybody? Well, I got another gameplay video for you guys on the Asus G15 Advantage, and today we're gonna do Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice on 1440p. Now, we are all set up and ready to go, as this is how the laptop normally sits, but I am gonna have to use OBS to record, so just keep in mind we're gonna lose some FPS. But don't worry, now that I got a tripod, I can go back to getting a little camera gameplay with my settings at the end, just so you guys can see it actually is not as bad as it seems in the FPS department. But anyway, why don't we go ahead and hop on into the game now. Starting off here with 1440p, we're gonna do low. So why don't we go look through the low settings real quick here. All right, that's the bottom, so let's get into the game. All right, here we are on low, starting off here, 1440p. Now just keep in mind, now I can't use my capture computer no more, so now this is OBS, so it is going to take a little performance away each time, but I'll do a little camera at the end with my settings, and at least that'll let you see what it's like with at least a teensy bit without being, you know, a little neutered by the fact that it has to record. Sorry, this is probably pretty boring just watching me walk up around a beach over and over again, but I want to get to wherever I just get stuck, like indoors or in a cave or something like that, where I can't get you guys realistic FPS numbers here. So that's why I keep staying on the beach. It is boring, but it's easy to repeat. Just walking around the same spot so you guys can see the FPS jumps. And of course, this might not even be the most hard to run place. There's probably way harder places to run than this, so I just figure like, hey, if it can get 150, you know, just as an example, it's not going to drop all the way down to under 60 anywhere, I don't believe, even at the most crazy to hard to run spot. But we still have random stutters like that too. If you've noticed, when the fog and everything, the trees loaded in the background there, it stuttered pretty bad. Does that every time, same spot. Anyway, now let's move on to the next graphics setting. On to the medium. So scroll through these small amount of settings real quick, and we'll do ray tracing and FSR at the very end. And there we go. Already at the bottom, so that means it's already time to get back in the game and see how medium does. Well, now here we go on medium. So we'll just keep kind of walking the same line over and over again, just so we can get some good data here. Might not be the most interesting, but it is doing the same thing over again. Shows you how different the FPS is, because we're literally in the same exact spot. All we're changing is settings. If I was going all over the place, who knows what FPS I'd get where and when. I wonder how many people could fit in a boat like that if it was all like put together and not like split in half, obviously. When it's split in half like that, it makes it look gigantic. Not like it wasn't gigantic, but looks like about freaking 30, 40 people could row that motherfucker. I wonder, will it stutter just coming back here still too? Yep, same spot here every time too. Interesting. Anyway, let's move on. Well, wouldn't you know it, we're already on high. So a quick mosey through the settings real quick before we get into the gameplay. There we go, gameplay. Now for some high gameplay here, and just keep in mind I'm using OBS now, so that does eat up a little FPS here and there. How much, that depends on every single game. It's different in every single game, but just wanted you to know it does affect the FPS since there's no capture computer now. It doesn't have two USB-Cs. I wished it did. Or I wish there was some literal way to just split mine into two. But every single thing I found that lets me do that doesn't work the way I want. It'll be like, alright, well, you can do a desktop and record the desktop, or you can just do 1080p on the screen itself, but you can't do a 1440p screen to the capture card. It just doesn't work. I've tried a bunch of different ways. I mean, maybe I've just been being dumb the whole time and there's some obvious way to do it, but if anybody knows, please let me know. That'd be great. Because then I could get like all captured computer stuff and I wouldn't have to worry about it eating up FPS anymore. But still, like this laptop a lot. It may have a little quirks here and there, but for the whole year I own it, mine's been absolutely great. The few tiny things I didn't like about it, I easily fixed without even voiding my warranty, in fact. It seems like the only thing you can do to void your warranty with that thing is to take the cooler off, which I'm going to do pretty soon, but mine's over a year old anyway. There's no more warranty. And besides the fact, people have been telling me, like, graphics cards, motherboards, doesn't matter what it is. Asus doesn't really like to honor warranties, and they try to weasel their way out, saying, oh no, you broke things. But that could just be a bunch of hearsay, so I don't like to say that because I haven't had to deal with them yet. All of their products have just worked for me. I haven't had very few products actually fail in my whole time building computers since I was like 12, 13. Yeah, I can still count the amount of things on one hand that have broken on me. And none of them were actually my fault. Time for very high now. But first, of course, we have to scroll through all these settings. Well, I say all these settings, but there's not really that many settings. I mean, look, while I was saying that, we already reached the bottom, which means it's time to get back into the game. Here we go with some very high now at 1440p, even more recording. It seems to be able to stay above 60, so that's fucking good. I mean, we don't really need hundreds upon hundreds of FPS for a game like this. I imagine this game is probably going to be a lot like Tomb Raider, only with like, what you would call it, more puzzles and whatnot. But maybe I'm wrong. I've never really gone past this point. Even when I did the Steam Deck, I got to this point and just stopped. And then I just started a new game because I didn't want to start right here. I figured, let's go through the forest a little bit. And then I had the idea, let's go through the beginning of the game. And I was like, oh shit, you're on like a canoe for like ever. And I think in the Steam Deck video, I stayed on the canoe for like 3 or 4 different graphics settings. So hell, I might want to come back and walk around on the damn beach here a little more. But then I sit there and think, well, I'm doing that. I could have done somebody else's request instead of going back and doing the ones I messed up slightly on. But no matter what, I have to remember, you're never going to make everybody happy. Everyone's always going to expect a little more or wished you would have done one more setting or whatnot. So I just have to learn to not let it get to me, and I can always do other requests if they want. Anyway, time to move on. Time for a little ray tracing now. We're going to start off on low and work our way up on that one. And 1080p ray tracing didn't go so well. So I'm not sure how this is going to go. Probably not well. Maybe be able to at least do low, but hey, let's go hop in and find out. Starting off now with some low ray tracing, and it seems like no, it cannot handle any ray tracing at 1440p. And I've got an external monitor helping me out, so if you just had one of the 1440p models of this, it'd probably be getting like 38 to 43 FPS, I would imagine. It's hard for me to remember the kind of FPS it got back when I had the original RAM. And some people have good RAM, and they don't even need to upgrade their RAM, but I've just got a couple comments recently from the newest models coming with some crappy RAM. They just changed brands or something. So just because it's new, I guess, doesn't necessarily mean that my RAM upgrade video is useless. I was starting to think, oh, well, all the new ones are probably just going to have good RAM because the whole COVID situation's pretty much over now. I mean, they keep trying to bring it back, but it seems like it's really needs to just stop unless they want the whole world to just be economically destroyed forever. But anyway, so I don't think there'll be any problems. I didn't think there'd be any problems getting the good RAM. I figured like, oh, well, RAM supply will be good. They can just give us all the good RAM all the time. Like no matter what, but guess I was wrong. Kind of good though, because that means my video is not useless. Except for people with old computers, that's what I thought, but now it's useful for everyone again. Hooray. Anyway, moving on. Well, even though it's not working good, we gotta do all the ray tracing, so let's go see how far medium drops us down in the FPS department. But first, let's finish scrolling through these guys. Right, there we go. Just got finished. That means it's time to get back into the game. Medium RT now. And now it looks like it's more like a 30-40 FPS experience. Yeah, ray tracing is not this laptop's strong suit. But figured we'll still show you guys how it goes. We'll walk to the other end of this beach just like we did with the rest of the things. Now, if this rate was getting like 15, 20 FPS, I'd probably just like cut this shit in half and do like 50 seconds. Well, that's not really in half, but you know what I mean? Just not quite go to the other end, because if it's running that bad, it's obvious no one's going to enjoy playing it like that. But there are people that this would be perfectly playable for. Especially if you like locked the FPS exactly to like 30 or 40. Mess with the settings just to get your ray tracing in, you know? But that's what's cool about computers. You've got the option to do that. I'm glad consoles at least have like different modes now, instead of just like, hey, here. It's not quite that great, but here you go. Nothing you can do about it. Have fun. Like, oh, you wanted 60 FPS and you wouldn't mind a little lower settings? Well, too bad. Here's 30 FPS kind of shit. I guess that's what I mean. Figured I'd give you an example. Now you can pick. You want RF ray tracing? Hell, you can usually get that with 30 FPS mode. Some even let you do 60. Anyway, moving on. Well, I dread to see what this is going to be like, but let's turn ray tracing to high now and just go see how that is. We already know it's going to be bad, but the question is, how bad? Well, now that we've reached the bottom, I guess we can go find out. Well, now we got high ray tracing, which at least while we were turning around there, dropped us all the way down into the teens. But it seems like after that, it put us back up into the low 30s. Which this is still probably considered very playable with people. Not to me personally, but you know, some people were kind of yelling at me about with the Steam Deck when I said, oh, it's unplayable, it can't get 60. They're like, well, fuck you, it's playable to me. I'm fine with 30 FPS. And at least usually in these kind of games with the Steam Deck, if you're stuck with 30, instead of things being on low and medium like they'd be like a PS4, it's more like you can get away with high. A bunch of stuff on high, maybe turning a thing or two down to medium, since its CPU sometimes can be a bottleneck, and it already is bottlenecking at such a low resolution. But I still know why they did that. If they didn't, and they went with like a Zen 3, then I think it would be a lot more. I'd probably add an extra like 30, 40 bucks to the price tag, and they didn't want that, so that's why it has a Zen 2. Zen 2 is fine for a majority of the games anyway, or at least as far as Steam Deck's concerned. Now it's time to start doing some FSR. And since we have ultra quality as an option, I'm pretty sure that indicates a 1.0. I do not believe 2.0 Plus has ultra quality. I think it maxes at quality, just like DLSS does. But anyway, let's go find out how it looks and see what kind of frame rate we get. Well, now we're going to try FSR. So the game is maxed out, minus ray tracing, since this laptop, AMD in general, just does not seem to like ray tracing right now. And it seems like that's not changing that much with the new 7000 series. It's going to get better, don't get me wrong, but it still seems like it's going to be behind NVIDIA for now. Maybe one day they'll get ahead of it, but that's just how it is for now. But it'll still be a big uptick. It'll probably be about as good as the 3000 series would be, and those are generally alright, which means it would probably be alright for most games. It's just not going to be the best if you want the best of the best and have to have the best of the best. So it's basically just people like me. And most people don't think like me. They're like, well, I'm not going to spend $5,000 on no computer to play something at 4K 120 FPS, so they can keep their 4090s and all that crap. And I don't blame them. That's fucking expensive. $1,600 is a lot. It's more than that once you incorporate tax in there. I think mine was more like $1,780 or something. It was almost fucking $1,800 when tax was all done. More expensive something is. I mean, that 6% adds fucking up. That's what ours is in Michigan, and I know it's different in every state and every country and whatnot. Hell, maybe some countries don't even have sales tax. But then stuff's more expensive because they have like VAT or something like that, and just customs taxes or who knows what else. Anyway, though, why don't we go ahead, move on to the next FSR? Well, now it's time for FSR Quality. So, we'll have to go get a little gameplay now and find out how quality works. So, no time like the present. Here we go, FSR. Just quality now. I'm pretty sure it made a little teensy difference. Not a huge one, but it seems to help more and more the higher resolution you go up. It doesn't really ever seem to help that awful much on my laptop or on my Steam Deck, but that's probably because they're basically 720p. I know it's a 1280 by 800, but that's basically the 16 by 10 version of 720p, so that's why I say that. And then 1080p on the laptop, so both of those are already pretty low resolution by today's standards. They're absolutely perfect resolutions for their screen size, though. Start noticing 1440p once you get up to about 24 inches on the monitor. That's where I would move up to. But there's really not too many 24-inch 1440p monitors. They're usually still 1080p, so you usually have to go up to 27 to get a 1440p monitor. But I'm sure there's exceptions to the rule, just like almost everything in life. And then if you want ultra wide, that's good from like 34 inches up to like 38 inches. Starts getting a little pixelated if you sit too close, though. And then 4K is great for TV size, like 38 plus. And then 8K is only good on those super fucking huge TVs, like 80 inches plus. I don't think we really need anything more than 4K, unless you're going to be smack dab in the front of it. But even when I'm sitting in front of mine, as far as I am right now, it looks great. And it's only like 100 PPI or something like that. Balanced FSR now, so scroll through the settings, we will. To the bottom. Here we go, there's balanced right there. Still DirectX 12, everything else is all good, all the same, so let's get back to the game. Now let's do ourselves a little FSR balanced. And yeah, we were only getting like 120 FPS before, so it's definitely going up. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention enough during 1080p, but I swear it didn't go up that much FPS. Like, tops went up 10. Not even, more like 4, 3 most of the time it seemed. Until we got to like performance, then it kind of went up quite a bit, but nobody should be doing performance. That shit looks so trashy. Unless all you're concerned with is FPS and you're just going to turn everything on low anyway. But it just looks hilarious when you max a game out and then play on performance FSR. I've done it so many times for so many videos, and it always looks hilarious to me. But yeah, balance isn't awful, but you can definitely still tell something's up. Like, you start looking towards the background where all that fog is. But then again, if you have to sit here watching it in like double third person while you're just recording, watching a recording you did, and you're not even playing, I mean, is it really that bad? But performance is so bad, it looks really bad even up close, like on her. Like, this one's starting to look kind of bad. Like, you can see kind of the aliasing around her hair and around the fur, around her little, I'd call it a scarf, but it's not technically a scarf, but whatever the hell it is on the top of her there, where the fur is. I'm sure it's got a fancy smancy name that I just don't remember right now. Or even know in general. It's not like I know everything. But alright, now, next FSR. Last up as far as FSR is concerned anyway, we got some FSR Performance. Everything else is on very high, no ray tracing or nothing like that, and still on DX12. So, now it seems as though we've reached the bottom, so it's time for us to go back to the game and see how it looks, which is probably not great. Well, last up here we have FSR Performance. Now, like, everything looks kind of bad. But still, let's just walk over to the other end of the beach over here like we've done for the rest of the shit. At least FPS is up there. We're up on the 150s now. So here you go. This is definitely the setting for people that are only concerned with FPS, that's for sure. Alright. We're pretty much to the end here, so may not look good, but performance-wise, it definitely lives up to its name. It's given us the lots of the performance. Anyway, let's move on to my settings. And now we'll give my settings a try. And just because I use these doesn't mean this is the only way to get good FPS or anything. I just figured this was a pretty good medium between FPS and graphics, without the need for ray tracing, since that just doesn't work no matter what. Not unless you use FSR 2. But anyway, let's get into the game. Okay, let's get ourselves a little bit of my settings screen recorded gameplay before we start my camera gameplay. So let's just walk over to the other side, just like we have been for everything else. Funny how it's like raining over by the waterfall, and then we just walk like 10 inches over here and like it's sunny. I wonder if that's just rain or water runoff from the frickin' waterfall though, you know? Like, big ass waterfall like that's gotta have some water spray. But yeah, we sit right around 100 FPS, which is, let's be honest, that's plenty for a game like this. We don't need 240, 300 FPS for Sasuna's sacrifice, that's for sure. Though some people might want it, but I don't think you need it. This is still very, very smooth. I mean, the frame times don't make it look very smooth, but they still are. It just gets a lot better when I'm not screen recording. But it is what it is. That's the only way I can get you guys data without just, you know, putting the camera in front of the thing, which looks a little unprofessional. At least to do all of them. I still do it, but I kind of wait till the end just to, you know, just show, hey, here's what it's like without being hurt by performance of OBS. And then just a little bit with my settings instead of doing it for every single setting. That was getting to be a little too time consuming, especially in the rendering process at the end. But anyway, now let's move on to camera. Well, alright guys, let's get a little camera gameplay in here with my settings. Kind of walk around our little fun beach area here that we've pretty much been with since almost the beginning of all the videos here. I walked around here on my Steam Deck too. It's just a great place to test. It has lots of nice lighting. It's got like fog and whatnot. And it goes in between two different areas, so you get the little loading stutter, but I think almost all the stutter is just from loading and whatnot. And then look at how much nicer the frame times are now that I'm not recording with like the actual computer. I'm getting pretty decent FPS too, I might add. Not that you need that much FPS to enjoy a game like this, but it's still nice to be extra smooth, right? So this is all like weird Viking looking stuff. And I should like this kind of game then. Thanks to my dad, he always said we have a lot of Viking blood in us. But at the same time, I kind of hate that he didn't tell me, like, what that was very much, like, legitimately. Because I know Viking isn't a race. I can't remember what actual race they were. Because I remember one time I told somebody, oh yeah, I have a lot of Viking, I'm so much % Viking. I can't even remember the % anymore because I just don't really say it very often. Haven't really said anything about it since I was like fucking 13 or something like that. But I think it was like 14 point something % Viking, and then they're like, Viking isn't a race, you fucking retard. You're not freaking Viking. You're lying. You know, obviously we're all kids, so obviously saying retarded and calling at people isn't nice, but that's just what they said to me, so it is what it is. And I'm under the impression you can say words if you're, like, explaining something. It's all about context. A lot of people on pikes, it seems. Very, very many people on pikes. Another waterfall. That is a pretty huge ass structure for what time period this is probably from. Yeah, they knew how to use rocks and cement. Or at least as far as the game is concerned. I guess I shouldn't go, oh yeah, the game says it's true, so that's how it was, you know? No one ever said this is a historically accurate game by any means. Yep, and every time we get close to an area like that, you see the fog pop in, and we always get like a stutter. Other than that, though, besides loading in new areas and stuff, the game doesn't really stutter or do anything bad. It's actually a pretty fucking smooth game. Pretty nice. Hell, just like on 1080p, you might even be able to get away with turning some more stuff up, you know? Especially the people that are just used to 30. They could just crank everything up to max. Hell, probably even throw a little ray tracing in there and be okay. But if you're going to use ray tracing, I'd suggest using FSR. I know I didn't test that, but that's what I'd recommend doing. It's the only way you're going to really be able to get away with it. Yep, now we go back into this area and we start walking over here. We load in this other area with all that fog back there, and it stuttered again. So I think we figured out what was causing the stutter. It's just loading in areas and whatnot. Even though I've got it on the highest view distance, it doesn't seem to matter. In the same spots every time, it does the same little stutter. Anyway, though, I think that is more than enough camera gameplay of this game, so now it's time to go wrap this video on up. Well, alright guys, that's a wrap for Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice, at least at 1440p. Now normally, I'd probably move on to ultra wide or 4K, and I'm still going to, but I think since I got my new Steam Deck fan yesterday, I think I should make a video on how to install fan on the Steam Deck just for fun. I already know there's probably a million of those videos out there already, but why not? I pretty much got the fan from iFixit, so I figured, well, if I can put it together, anyone can fix their Steam Deck. That's pretty much what the point of it'll be. But anyway, that's all I got for you guys for this particular video. I do hope you enjoyed it, because I sure enjoyed making it. And until the next video, peace out, guys.